Nike needs to make the Kobe 4 available for Nike ID.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_Beeble and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today we are looking back at 3 games from Thursday, the first 3 games of the day, and then previewing the 9 games for Friday. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. The first game of the night, a ripper. The Philadelphia 76ers getting the victory over the Boston Celtics. Boston's first loss at home this season, 115-109. Al Horford was not playing. He had knee and hamstring issues in his return to Boston, so Joel Embiid went bananas. 38, 13 and 6, a block, 57 from the field, 86 from the line on 14 attempts. I've talked about Embiid's free throw rate this season, how it's been a little bit down. This was great to see. Toby Harris also fantastic, 23, 8 and 7 with 2 blocks. His shooting at the moment is really up, over 40% from 3 over the last couple of weeks. He was 50% overall in this one, got the defensive numbers, really putting together a strong campaign. While Joshy Richardson, the absolute ultimate Richie Beno.
2 for 2.
In fact, I think we're going to call this one a Richardson Beno. He had 2 threes, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. He had 14 points to ruin it, but he was 2 of 2 from the free throw line as well. Richie would 100% be proud. Limited minutes for Richo again here, 26 minutes as he works his way back from that hammy issue. The painter, Matisse Thybulle. Now, he got cooked on defense by Kemba Walker quite a bit, but he played 30 minutes. And he continues to hit his threes at an unfathomable rate. 2 of 3 from 3. That's another 67% night. I mean, he had 6 points, those 2 threes, but 2 threes, 1 steal, 2 blocks. That's enough to get it done, especially if these minutes are going to go up. Furkan Korkmaz is falling out of favor. Jim Ennis isn't doing too much. Harl Neto is doing nothing. If Thybulle can get 25 a night, then on the right team in a 12-team league, doesn't have to be yours, might not be yours, but he can work. See how it makes sense on your team. Threes without hurting your field goal percentage, which, again, I do think is going to fall back, but the defensive numbers and the minutes are the most encouraging thing. Prison Mike started for Horford. He had 15 and 4 with 5 triples. He is just a point and threes type streamer. On to the Celtics. Enes Kanter, 24 minutes. Enes Kanter is one of those blokes that as soon as he has a game like this, people go super excited. Man, I dropped him. What was I doing? I've got to go and add Kanter. Do we add him? Anything to see here? Robbie Williams is out. We have big minutes from Kanter. And the answer is no. Like, this was great from Kanter. There's no denying that. 20 points, fantastic in 24 minutes. 9 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 77% shooting. Robbie Williams is out. He's going to get these minutes. Yeah, that's cool. Except last game Williams was out and Kanter had 4 and 6 in 14 minutes. And the game before he had 7 and 4 in 18 minutes. And the game before he had 8 and 4 in 18 minutes. And the game before he had 2 points in 7 minutes. So, before we give ourselves the Danish backhand, maybe we just need to relax a little bit and think that this matchup to me against Embiid works for him. The Celtics like Kanter going up against Embiid. They started him against Embiid on opening night as well. But I don't think that this is any big... He had 12 and 6 against Embiid in that opening night. I don't think this is any solid indication that we need to go and grab Enes Kanter, a bloke who is outside the top 200 for the season and outside the top 175 over the last month. In anything outside of, say, 14 teams at the absolute shallowest would be my guess. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just don't see it. Vanilla Tice had 16 and 5, so he was no slouch himself. Well, Kemba was also started off pretty strong and then just couldn't hit anything at the end. 29 points in 38% shooting with 8 assists. Gordie Hayward, 37 minutes. The minutes restriction appears to be over. 19, 4 and 5. And Jace Tatum, the shooting from him is really rough. 28% from the field, 15, 3 and 4 with 3 threes and a block. While Jaylen Brown, I've been talking up his improvements and saying, maybe there's some unsustainability. Maybe he's a bit of a sell high. Well, I didn't expect this. 8, 5 and 2 on 9 shots. So there's always fluctuations in there. And sometimes people will criticize, Josh, you said this guy was a sell high. Now you're saying he's a buy low. That's just how things work. At one point, when they're unsustainably hot, you sell them off. They drop off. Someone loses their value. You buy them low. That's just how this stuff works. I'm not saying he's a buy low after one game, but this is you're trending back towards where he probably should be versus that hot streak he had at the beginning of the season or through all of the season that we've seen so far. Let's go on to the next game. The Cleveland Cavaliers on the road beat the Spurs in overtime, 117-109. A really, really poor loss for the Spurs here. But let's talk Cleveland. 39 minutes for Kevin Love. 30 and 17 with 4 threes. 46% from the field, 80 from the line. We haven't seen a game like this from Love for quite a while. If you can sell him, sell him. Now, in general, whenever we hear trade stories, whenever we're banking on a guy getting traded, the safe assumption is that it won't happen. If anytime anyone talks about a trade, or you think, well, this might happen if this guy gets traded, if your assumption is it won't happen, you're going to be right the vast majority of the time. We talk about it all. How many times? Remember, Tyreke Evans got sent home from the Grizzlies so he could get traded and didn't get traded. Like this stuff, the trades that happen often come out of the blue. So we've been hearing about Kevin Love to Portland for 10 years, it feels like. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But in general, if you go with your idea of they won't get traded, the majority of the time you will be right. Now, I think Love's value actually sustained and stabilizes if he gets traded to a good team versus blowouts, the Cavs team, injuries, all that sort of stuff here with Cleveland. So, again, if you want to go with that default position that he won't get traded, now's a great time to sell if someone believes in him and wants to give you a top 50 guy back. But this is all obviously encouraging us. Now's the time to explore that. Jordy Clarkson had 25 in 31 minutes, 4 threes. This is a nice little string of games from Clarkson. He's not consistent with that, but if you need a points scoring boost, he is an option to add in that spot. While the Padawan Colin Sexton, just look at this. This is Sexton. He should frame this box score and really get it, or not frame it, just get it tattooed across his forehead. 28 points with 2 rebounds and 2 assists. 53% shooting is great. 7 or 8 from the line is great. But again, when the shot doesn't fall in, he gives you a pile of shit. That is just what Sexton does, and that is why I think his overall ceiling is limited. Kevin Porter, so much for his breakout. 5 points in 16 minutes, 2 rebounds, 2 assists and a steal. I do have my worries about what his overall game entails when everything gets cracking. If you added him, I think we just hold and we see where we go with this and see how those minutes look. But this was not a great situation with Osman playing 37 minutes. Well, Larry Nance, he got the minutes. 29 minutes, 0 and 11. No points, 11 boards, no defensive numbers, missed both of his field goal shots. It's harder and harder to hold him. He is just a luxury stash at this point. If you are struggling, you cannot afford the consistent nothingness that Nance brings you. Now, he got these minutes because Tristan Thompson got benched. We talked about him being a sell-high type of guy who was never going to be able to sustain this value, and I don't think he's going to end the season as a 12-team guy. The decline has started. 2 and 7 in 26 minutes, benched down the stretch. Now, whether that means we drop him, I don't think it does at this point, but I do think that those wheels are going to fall off. For the Spurs, again, so people love reacting to news in an aggressive way, not aggressive as in like yelling, but like going super hyper on things. Like DeJounte Murray, he's got no more minutes restriction. That means 32 a night going forward. Man, we've got to grab him, we've got to do that. Well, maybe he doesn't have a minutes restriction, and we have to go by what Pop said. He doesn't have a minutes restriction. Maybe he's got an offensive talent restriction. Maybe it's as simple as that. He played 17 minutes here with no minutes restriction. Now, the line's fine, 6 and 4 with 3 steals and a block. But maybe we need to recalibrate our thinking. And it's not necessarily as much my thinking, but there is a prevailing nature. Absolute superstar in waiting. This guy's a stud. Can't wait till he gets freed and unleashed and all those other nonsense terms get thrown around. Maybe he just isn't that good. He can put up rebounds, sure. He gets defensive numbers. The shooting's a worry. How he runs an offense is a worry. And all those things obviously matter to Popovich. I'm not saying we shouldn't have him in 12-10 leagues because that's still a really bloody good line. But to think that he's just got this open runway for 30 minutes a night now, given the other issues in his game, and that he's this guaranteed budding superstar, I reckon we might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with him. Good game from Maximum Derek White.
Maximum Derek.
32 minutes for Whitey, 17 and 4. That's encouraging. 2 assists, 1 steal. Just when we're ready to go, well, it's just not going to happen for him. We're going to lose. He's losing minutes to Murray. There's just not enough there. And he comes out and does this. And you go, Popovich. I don't know what to do here with White. Again, it's a bit of a luxury stash. They still refuse to play them together for any big chunks of time. At least we're starting to realize that Bryn Forbes isn't very good. He only played 17 minutes. But this team is bad, man. They need changes. I don't know what those changes are. They are loath to do in-season trades. We can talk about DeRozan getting traded. We can talk about Aldridge getting traded. The odds of those 2 things happening are infinitesimally small. One of them happening is pretty small anyway. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just pretty rough to try and work out how this all happens for White. He's still a 14-teamer, and he's still probably just hanging on in 12s, but this gives you pause. Jakob Poeltl, fantastic. 4 points, but 2 steals, 2 blocks. he looks good out there. But the minutes, again, continually restricted. I don't understand why we're getting Rudy Gay out there. He hurt his knee in this one game, but was able to play through it. But then Pirtle started the second half. There's just too much inconsistency with these guys. Aldridge was great, 18 and 10. DeRozan, 21, 4 and 4. Strong numbers from both of those guys. Lonnie Walker got the minutes. Like the guy on the other side of the aisle, Kevin Porter Jr., Walker's a guy that gets the minutes and he scores, and that looks flashy. And then what else have we got? Like, he shot 80% here. That's great. A steal and a block is nice, but 2 rebounds and 0 assists. Didn't hit any threes. There are definite concerns overall I have with his game. But the fact that he got 24 minutes is encouraging. The fact that Bellinelli still got 20 minutes is discouraging. But we saw Walker taking those minutes from Forbes. He is, again, a luxury stash type guy, a 14 to 16 team league player who is better suited to a points league format. But there's going to be ups and downs, as there is with pretty much everybody on this Spurs team, unfortunately. The next game that we look at here is the game in Mexico City. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Detroit Pistons 122-111. A random Seth Curry outburst, 30 points, 6 triples, 7 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 steals on 73% shooting. And that is the number you should be focusing on before you go and grab Curry. Look at the fact that he played 34 minutes and shot 73%, which he won't continue to do. Tim Hardaway still going to be there thieving minutes and money. He played 25 minutes, had 2 points on 6 shots. And again, that hot shooting, the 50+% threes, when they fell off, he wasn't going to be providing value. He didn't provide value. He had 2 points and he didn't do anything else. To me, he's a really, really fringe 12-team league guy. Let's talk a little bit about Luka Doncic, though. 41, 12, and 11. Jesus Christ. He hit 6 triples. Now, the free throws are bad. That's Giannis level bad. 7 of 12, and he is trending down in the free throws, which is a bit of a worry, but 58 from the field. He continues to be unbelievable. 42% usage is insanity. He is putting up numbers that I never even thought he'd get to in his career, let alone in his second season. While Kristaps Porzingis had him as a buy low this week. 20 and 8, 3 blocks. If that's what he does every week, then bang, he just returns that value really, really quickly. And it's good to see him back. He's not fully back, but that's good. 9 and 10 for Dwight Powell with a steal and a block. That's low-end value. There is value in him with his high field goal percentage, good steal rate, solid rebounds. More of a 14-teamer, but he can get the job done in 12s, while Finney Smith doesn't really do a huge amount. And as I mentioned already, Timmy Hardaway and the heir apparent to Tone Snell, Justin Jackson, had 2 points in his 21 minutes. Let's talk now about the big avocado, Andre Drummond, who played 34 minutes, 23 and 15 with 3 steals, 1 block, 71% shooting. He was in doubt to play this game because he ate an avocado, which he's allergic to, and his eyes swelled up, and he wasn't able to see or put contacts in. That went down. He must have had something laced with guacamole during his time in Mexico City, but he pulled through for a big game. Derrick Rose was also good, 19 points, 5 triples for Derrick Rose. Jesus, when you get 5 threes from Derrick Rose and he's on your fantasy team, go buy a lotto ticket, because that is just not going to happen that often. He also got 2 steals as well, so it's obviously magic day down in Mexico. Well, Tone Snell, shout out to him for getting 12 points with 4 threes. The Duck, Luke Kennard, struggled, 8 points on 13 shots. The minutes are there. The usage is okay. He's more of a fringe 12-teamer to me. While Griffin, the absolute rotten struggles continue. 10, 3, and 5. 19% shooting. 1 of 10 from 3. This is as rough as it gets. Now, he is an absolute aggressive buy low. But don't buy low with a top 50 guy going, well, who'll get back to that? You throw your worst player. Because people will be going, Griffin's cooked. And he might be cooked. But you throw your 2 worst players in a combo deal 2 for 1 to get Griffin and see what it does. I think he's cooked. I think he's in real trouble here, Griffin. But it still is a buy low, because if you're not giving up much, you take that risk. And if you've got him, you don't give him away for the worst player on someone else's team, and you don't drop. But it's getting pretty close to that. I reckon he's in real trouble here, Griffo. The Crucifix, Christian Wood, had 10 and 8 in 14 minutes. We know that he produces in a limited minute basis. If Griffo goes down, I reckon we might get a 20-plus type situation from Wood at some point, but yeah, it's really hard to stash in that sort of scenario. Not much else happening, I don't think, across there. The Shark, Bruce Brown, had his 4 assists and 2 steals, and that has a deep league appeal. Probably should hit the button. Baby shark, do-do-do-do-do. All right, that'll do it for the games today. The other games still in progress, the Denver Nuggets and Portland Trailblazers. I'll have that recapped all over on Basketball Monster for you as well. Let's look at some injury news here. Jakey Layman looks like he's going to be out a little bit more time with that foot injury. That helps someone like Keita Bates-Diop. It helps Jarrett Culver. It helps Josh Okogie there in Minnesota as well. Ja Morant and Brandon Clark have come back from their injuries, but they're going to sit the first half of this back-to-back on Friday out for Memphis. So stream in your DeAnthony Meltons. Increased boost in value for Solomon Hill for deeper leagues. Bruno Caboclo for very deep leagues there as well. Tyus Jones gets some short-term value. Paddy Beverley's going to miss Friday. Who replaces him in the Clippers lineup remains to be seen. They did go with Terrence Mann at other points during the season, but he seems to have fallen behind Derek Walton Jr. and behind Jerome Robinson, so maybe one of those two guys gets a start. They're only just really deeper league options, while the lubricant Kai Bowman has been sent down to the G League. They are trying to preserve his days. I am not convinced that they will cut Marquise Chris to convert Bowman now. They'd like to. I reckon a trade might be coming at some point, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Bowman's value is evaporated with Russell back in the lineup and Burks playing as well as he is. Other injury news, Al Horford, of course, missed today with that knee and hamstring injury, Drummond with his avocado issue, and your mate, your absolute mate, Dion Waiters, suspended by the Heat for the third time this season for disobedience, pretty much. For literally, they might as well just put the press release out. Dion Waiters, shit bloke, because he is obviously just doing shit behind the scenes there. His third suspension, he will not play a game, is my guess, for the Heat this season. He has not played a game, has been suspended 3 times. He's cost himself about $3 million so far in fines and missed bonuses due to games missed. And he is, remember at the start of the season, Dion Waiters, best shape of his career. Look at this, muscle watch, he's fantastic. He's going to be starting. These numbers. And just what an absolute poor dickhole. He is really struggling at the moment, and you have to worry about where his NBA career goes from here. Let's talk some DFS, moving on to Friday's games now. We're going to be looking at FanDuel pricing. There are 9 games on the slate. All right, the first game up we're looking at FanDuel pricing today is the Houston Rockets at the Orlando Magic. No spread released at this point. Both Markelle Fultz and Nikola Vucevic are both listed as doubtful for the Magic. Vucevic, of course, has been out with that ankle injury, and Fultz has missed the last game with an illness, so they both are unlikely to play. Whilst for the Rockets, Austin Rivers is doubtful, as is Tyson Chandler. So more minutes for guys like Ben McLemore and Danny House, and some potentially more minutes for PJ Tucker at center and Gary Clark to get some playing time there. At point guard, Michael Carter-Williams is a minimum salary player. He played 21 minutes last game and had 21 points. That is enough to cash that value at minimum. With Fultz out, he's going to have to play more minutes. There is no other point guard outside of DJ Augustin. So Carter-Williams has been playing a lot as a 2 and a 3. He's going to have to play some point guard minutes. So I do like him quite a bit here in this one. Westbrook's at 10-3, and the shot's been falling okay for him. He's averaging 54 over his last 5. Now, this is a slow down tempo game, and we've seen plenty of teams really struggle to get scores going against Orlando. So that is, I guess, one of the reasons I'd consider fading him. But he feels good for at least 45, which is not bad at that price. Augustin's at 52, struggled in the last game, had only 7 points in 27 minutes. Of course, he can go bigger than that, but you wouldn't want to trust him. At shooting guard, you've got Terry Ross at 5,300. No Vooch, no Fultz. That does give extra usage to Ross, who was pretty poor last time out as well, but he's averaging around that low 20s. I don't think it's quite enough, but he can always blow up for a 35 or a 40-pointer, making him a tournament player, while Fournier gets a usage reprieve, but he's at 6,700. It's just too high for what he does. He provides good 27, 28-point nights, but at 6,700, that's not enough. So I don't like him here, while Jimmy Harden is at 12-2. We know what Harden can do. If there's ever a time to sort of fade him, it's a 9-game slate when you're going up against an Orlando team with good defense, but he's always a real tough bloke to fade. So, yeah, you always consider him an option, but just see how other pieces fit in around. While Benny McLemore's at 5,300. That's a pretty high price, and McLemore struggled a little bit last game. I'm not sure that his upside is high enough to justify the downside at that salary. Johnny Isaac's at 7,000. He's sort of been around that mark. I don't feel super confident about him at that sort of a salary, although small forwards and power forwards do get a bit of a they get a boost against the Rockets, so he's okay. He's not great. Danny House at 48, not really keen. Cephalosha and Awundu, of course not. I do like Aaron Gordon at power forward, though. 6,700. Again, a really strong matchup for power forwards going up against the Rockets. Gordo's been giving us mid-30s recently, which at 6,700, $300 cheaper than Isaac, is absolutely in play. Kem Birch should get another start, but he's not really an option. And then you've got PJ Tucker, who is wildly up and down with his production, but his salary, to me, far exceeds his overall DFS value. At centre, Mo Bamba.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He just doesn't play enough. He had 20 points last game, 19 minutes, 4,500. There are better guys out there. Clint Capella is one of those better guys, but also at 8,800, I'm not sure he is the greatest investment at the centre spot for Friday. The next game up, we've got the New Orleans Pelicans and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers on a back-to-back. We don't know whether Al Horford will play. We don't know whether Joel Embiid will play. Horford, of course, did not play on Thursday in Boston with a knee and hamstring soreness, while it is a back-to-back, so we've always got to watch that with Embiid. Richardson likely will be on a minutes limit as well as he returns from his hamstring injury. So there could be some real value open up, whether it's Prison Mike, whether it's Matisse Thybulle, whether it's Jimmy Ennis. There could be some value opening up here, whether it's the cock monster Kylo Quinn, if Embiid and Horford are both out. There could be some real value opening up there. For the Pelicans, Derek Favors has been listed as questionable for the 1 millionth consecutive game. He's still dealing with the death of his mother, which has kept him out for an extraordinarily long amount of time. Everyone's entitled, of course, to grieve for whatever length of time they need. It has been a long time. That's just not annoyed at him, not frustrated or anything like that. It just literally is a long time. At point guard, Ben Simmons, 8,800. I would look to Ben if we do get Embiid sitting out in this one. I think I know the matchup's really strong for him going up against the Pelicans, and it gets further bolstered if both Embiid and Horford are out. While Lonzo at 6,000, coming off the bench, really hard to utilise him. For your shooting guards, Reddick's at 4,000, absolute explosion last game. That's upper level. He's not going to get to that sort of number, but at 4,000, I'm confident he can get 20 plus points, and that makes him an option. While Drew Holiday at 76 has been really rock solid as a floor guy, a 35-point type of player now. Defensively, the Sixers are quite good at limiting oppositions. But Holiday at that sort of, I don't know why I said oppositions, but Drew Holiday at that sort of a salary, I think is still a good player. I wouldn't want to use either of the Joshes, Richardson or Hart here in this one. While Korkmaz and Alexander Walker, they don't really get it done for me. At small forward, Toby Harris is at 78. He gets the Embiid bump if Embiid does happen to sit, while Ingram's at 85. Hasn't been at that level. 35 average over the last 5. The shot hasn't quite been falling at the same level. He's still playing well, but he's not playing as like a 43 to 45 point producer. So I'm not interested there. The Painter Matisse Thybulle, not the greatest DFS option. Kenny Williams, Jimmy Ennis. Ennis maybe in that situation, if Embiid and Horford are out, they have to rely upon him, but he's only a tournament guy at best. Horford's at 7,300. I think that's probably a little bit too high for a bloke that is dealing with banged up knee/hamstring injuries, while Favors, we wouldn't want to use him first time out. Prison Mike at 36. It's all injury or situation dependent. He could be a real big game for Scott, or it could be absolutely nothing. And then for centres, Embiid's at 10-2. On a back-to-back in a game that could be a blowout, we might see 25, 26 minutes of Embiid. So that is not an intriguing one to me. While Jackson Hayes at 5,000. Absolutely love Hayes if we do get the confirmation that Favors isn't playing in this game. Next one is the Indiana Pacers at the Atlanta Hawks. The Pacers are 6-point favourites on the road, and the total is 222.5 points at point guard. Timothy John McConnell is at 3,600. I've got no interest in him. I do in Trae Young, though, at 9,600. Young's numbers recently haven't quite been there. I think that he is at least worth a look here, but he's getting a little bit towards maybe that price needs to come down or I'll start fading him. Brogdon's at 78, whereas on the other hand, I think Brogdon's price is too low, and there is some value in him continually at that salary. Aaron Holiday had a big game last time, 29 points in 27 minutes, and that was with Brogdon playing. He was closing the game alongside Brogo. At 3,700 or 3,600, that is really interesting for Holiday. I'm not sure they go that direction again, but it's at least one to have in the back pocket for a tournament. At shooting guard, Pants Kevin Huerter. Until we hear the minutes restriction has been lifted, I don't feel super confident in going for that one. There's just too much uncertainty there. Well, Jeremy Lamb is really trending down, and I'll fade that off pretty quickly. At small forward, Tony Warren Jr. is at 5,400. If the shots aren't there or going in, he does nothing, and that gives him a pretty weak floor, although the matchup does really suit Warren, so I like him for tournaments. Hunter's at 52. Reddish is at 4,000. Vince Carter, Doug McDermott, none of those guys are getting me excited. I am interested in Justin Holiday, though. 3,800. He's giving us 20 a night over the last 5. The minutes are up, and at sub 4,000, I guess you can have some value, especially if they're going to look at him over Jeremy Lamb, which they've done the last couple of games. For your power forwards, Parker's at 6,400. I think that's too high for Jabari, who's been playing okay but not great. While Sabonis at 9,000 is giving us 45 a night, so he is really, really a strong option there. For your centres, Alex Len providing really good numbers. His lowest score in his last 5 has been 21, and that's fantastic considering it's coming in 19 minutes. That's really, really good from him. I don't want to trust Len, of course, but the production at the moment with Jones continually getting in foul trouble is leaning towards him providing value. Probably steer clear though. Miles Turner at 63 is probably a little bit too high for a bloke that just can't seem to do anything. While Damian Jones has come all the way down to 4,700, but that's still not down far enough for me to consider him as a strong DFS guy. Next up is the Charlotte Hornets and the Chicago Bulls. What sort of weird and wild nonsense is going to happen in this game? Their matchups this season have been fun/infuriating. We had that Zach LaVine 13 three-pointer game. We had the first game of the season where PJ Washington and Devontae Graham went bananas. Lots of weird shit happening with these teams pretty much all season. The Bulls, of course, listed their entire roster on the injury report. Denzel Valentine, Chris Dunn, Ryan Archer-Jacquino, Zach LaVine, Wendell Carter Jr. are all probable. Chris Felicio is doubtful. Chandler Hutchison and Otto Porter are out. While for the Hornets, Malik Monk is probable, Nick Batum is doubtful, and Marvin Williams is out with that knee issue again. For your point guard, you've got Kobe White's at 4,800. Really got cracking last time. He has averaged 34 in the games against Charlotte so far this season. He's always just a tournament guy because if the shot doesn't go in, then very little happens. And 6,000 for Tomas Satoransky is probably on the high side. Chris Dunn is starting, but his salary is too high at 5,700. We can find better guys than that to use. And Rozier is at 7,400, who's been playing okay from a category perspective, but for DFS, 7,400 feels like it's a little bit on the high side. For your shooting guards, LaVine's at 8,100. No worries with that. I love what LaVine's doing, giving us 40 a night. Absolutely fine with that. While your mate Devontae Graham at 7,900, also absolutely just destroying teams on the reg. I like him quite a bit here, averaging 48 over his last 5 games. Really good value there. The hammer, Denzel Valentine, 3,800. Well, if they keep him in the rotation, which I believe they will, he'll beat this number and he'll beat it pretty comfortably. So he can be an interesting, cheap guy to build your lineup around. Not that Denzel Valentine's the number one guy in your lineup, but it enables you to get some other players in. While Miles Bridges is at 6,000, that's probably too high for Bridges, who's been more of a 54,000 sort of 54,000. That's a lot. A $5,400 sort of a player. The minutes are there, the production just isn't coming around. Kid Gilchrist has played okay, 25 minutes last game. 20 minutes, 25 points. With Williams out and Batum sidelined, a minimum salary Kid Gilchrist, maybe he can fill that Denzel Valentine type of role in a lineup as a low-price guy to anchor the rest of your players around it. For your big men, Paul Washington Jr. is at 5,900. I think that's not a bad price for Washington there. Larry Markkinen has been playing better, but I'm not sure the $6,000 400 price tag is the right one here. He's had pretty good record against Charlotte in the past, blew up on opening night against them. Probably more of a tournament guy. Well, Thad Young was excellent last game. Got extra minutes in the blowout against Atlanta, but had 42 points. I have real hesitation in considering him an option. At center, Wendell Carter's at 65, just not getting it done for me, so that's a fade. Biyombo and Zala, they're splitting minutes. Hard to really lock down on either of them. They're in that sort of mid-20s zone most nights, low to mid-20s, and that's sort of in line with their salary, although one thing goes wrong and they don't get value, and then there's no upside with them either. So that makes them pretty strong fades to me. The next bunch of blokes that we look at is the Lakers and the Miami Heat. No spread or total out at this point. Tone Davis is probable, while Kyle Kuzma and Rajon Rondo have both appeared on the injury report as questionable. They missed last game. Tyler Hero has also popped up as questionable. Avery Bradley is probable. James Johnson is probable. Justice Winslow is out. Goran Dragic is out. And of course, Dion Waiters is suspended for the third time this season. Not the third game, the third separate time. He'll miss the next 6 games. He's not even going to play a game this season, I'm pretty sure. At point guard, Kendrick Nunn is at 5,500 with all those guys out. Nunn and Hero questionable. Nunn is an absolute cat. He's not a gash. Maybe he is. He's a cash lock at 5,500. Dropped 51 last point. Love him in this one. Rondo at 48. That's a strong no from me. While Tyler Hero at 44. If we hear that Hero is playing and he's not limited by his illness, then at 4,400 there is some GPP value, but that is it. He's been inconsistent, while the Spur Dunk Robinson is at 4,800. He dropped a casual 47 last game. That salary's gone up. It's not up enough to completely dissuade me from looking at him, but it does take a little bit of the shine away. Jim Butler's at 9,700. You have to like him here, although the defensive matchup's a tough one against the Lakers. And then you go on to guys like Dan Green and Caldwell Pope and Bradley, who are really tough to use. Derek Jones is at 4,200. I imagine we're going to get some pretty strong Jones minutes. At 4,200, I think he gets the 20 points pretty comfortably. Can be a 30 to 34 point guy if things break his way. So I do like him, while LeBron James at 10,600.
LeBron James.
Just absolutely rock solid 50-point type of a guy with 65 to 70-point upside. Really, really like James here. At power forward, the future MVPs at 4,100. Kyle Kuzma, no thank you. Anthony Davis at 11-2. I much prefer the 10-6 on LeBron than 11-2 on Davis, but Davis is still, of course, an option, while Bam Bam Adebayo's at 8-8.
Bam, 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 bam.
He's averaging 54 over the last three. Centers have a struggle, and power forwards, to be honest, have struggled against the Lakers this season. However you want to label Adebayo, the Heat consistently label him as a power forward. At 8,800, it is a fair whack to take Bam, and I reckon that might be an opportunity to steer clear of him. Dwight and McGee, almost impossible to use those guys, same as Olynyk and Myers Leonard, just hard to get any sort of reliability with them. Next up, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Memphis Grizzlies. Giannis Antetokounmpo is listed as questionable. I do not think that Giannis plays. I mentioned this on yesterday's podcast. They got a back-to-back Friday, Saturday. I'd be pretty stunned if Giannis played in those games. So that makes Ersan Ilyasova a good option. We also know that Ja Morant and Brandon Clark are both out. So we can fire up our backup guards in Memphis. Which backup guard? DeAnthony Melton. 4,100 for Melton's playing more minutes over Jones. He's playing better than Jones. He's handling the up-tempo pace more than Jones. It doesn't mean I think that Melton starts. In fact, I'm pretty confident that Jones will start. But Melton is going to get his 25 to 26 minutes, and that should be enough for him to put in 25 to 26 points. This is a guy who's around a fantasy point per minute type producer, even more than that over the last 5 games, and he should be able to exceed that in this spot. Tyus Jones at 43. He can get some numbers up. He's more of a tournament guy than a cash guy, though. Bledsoe's at 67, and if indeed Giannis is out, I do think that you have to look at Bledsoe. He dropped a casual 45 last game with huge usage, and that really helps him in that spot. George Hill also at 3,600. We get a bit of a boost if Antetokounmpo is out. Hill is shooting a blistering 56% from 3 this season. At shooting guard, Dylan Brooksy Brooks is at 5,000. Have to love that value. You know, I don't like Dylan Brooks as a player. You're all well aware of that. But with Morant out, he does take on a little bit more consistency, consistently higher usage as well. So that is going to help him, and he should be able to push through those 25-point marks pretty quickly, especially with a $600 price reduction. Kyle Anderson's at 3,700. I don't really care for that. While Chris Middleton, same as Bledsoe. Giannis out. Middleton gets in your lineup at 6,700. The big Ragu is at 37. Dante DiVincenzo, not super interested. Sterling Brown, Wes Matthews, similarly. At small forward, Jay Crowder's at 49. I think with those absences, we have to look at Crowder as not a bad cash guy, averaging 24 over the last 5, which is all right at 4,900. I think we feel okay about him here. While Antetokounmpo's at 12,000, I don't think he's going to play, so therefore I'm not interested in using him. For your big man, Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, is at 6,800. He has got the offense rolling. He's averaging 37 over the last 5. There is no Brandon Clark, so maybe a couple more minutes there, but as long as he stays out of foul trouble, he'll smash this in. He's dropped by $500 in salary, so there is an inherent risk, of course, with him with the fouls, but he's been much better at it lately. The production's been relatively consistent. In fact, over his last 5 games, his lowest score is 32 points. I don't think you can really complain about that. So I do like Jackson quite a bit here. And then on to the centers. Jonas Valanciunas. The numbers have trended down. Hopefully they would have dropped his salary more than this, but it's only down to 8,000. I think in a very, very good matchup, centers have put up big numbers against the Bucks this season. JB could have a 40, could have a 50-point game. I wouldn't be trusting it as a cash spot, but as a GPP option, he is in play with the absence of Brandon Clark out of this lineup. Brook Lopez, 5,100. I have zero confidence in what he is going to do on a nightly basis. The next game that we take a look at here, we have got the LA Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Clippers are 5-point favorites, and the total is a very, very robust 230 points. Shockingly, Kawhi Leonard is playing in this game. Now, this was one that I thought he would sit out because it gives the Clippers 1 day rest between their Wednesday game and Friday game. And then after this game, Kawhi's got, if he sits out Saturday, as we expect, he's going to have 3 days rest. The common sense move would have been to sit him out on Friday, play him on Saturday. So there was 2 games break between Wednesday and Saturday and 2 games break between Saturday and Tuesday. But this game is a national TV game. So you 100% know, actually let's try that again. You 99% know that the league said to the Clippers, Kawhi's got to play because it's national TV. That's why he didn't appear on the injury report. So Kawhi's going to play. Patrick Beverley is not. Landry Shamet is out. Scooter Magruder is likely back, while Jeff Teague and Keita Bates-Diop are both questionable for the Wolves, and JaMychal Green is questionable for the Clippers. At point guard, Teague is at 5,000.
My name is Jeff.
Teague absolutely rocked it last game. He dropped 52, and at 5,000, I really like it. No Patrick Beverley to defend him. A great opportunity. Of course, if he doesn't play, it's a terrible opportunity, but that is the risk we take there. If he is out, Shabazz Napier is a GPP option, minimum salary maybe. And then you got guys like Jerome Robinson and Derek Walton. Maybe they go with a starting lineup of those guys. We saw Terrence Mann start in the past, but Walton and Robinson have jumped ahead of him in the rotation at this point. So whoever does get that start in place of Beverley could be a GPP guy, but only because they're minimum salary type players. At shooting guard, Trevion Graham and Rodney Magruder aren't interesting at all, while Andy Wiggins is at 75, and I actually think that's a pretty strong floor play there for Wiggo. While Lou Williams at 6,000, I like the fact that that salary is as low as it is. This matchup's a strong one for Lou. He's going to get extra opportunities to run point with Patrick Beverley out, so I think he's a 30-point guy at a minimum here. For your small forwards, Okogie's at 43. He's been around that mark. I think that's not bad for cash. I think his upside is relatively limited, but his cash value is all right. While Jarrett Culver, woof, he is averaging under 15 points over the last 3. It's a GPP spot if Teague is out, but otherwise it's really tough to trust him, while Mo Harkless is at 42. Harkless is getting minutes. Now, if Kawhi was out, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with Harkless. Kawhi is not, so it is a little bit tougher to get excited about him, while the Beatle Paul George is at 9,300. I reckon you can keep that one for yourself at this stage. He's been a little bit off, and I'm not super keen, although the matchup is really good. I'm not super keen on him at 93. For the power forwards, Covington's at 57. Got those numbers back last game, which was really, really strong, but I'm not massively invested in him here, while the fun guy, Kawhi Leonard.
I'm a fun guy.
Again, really positive matchup for him, but at 9,900, I think it's probably a little bit on the expensive side for a game that could be a real blowout. Via centre, Towns 11-10 has not been a 50-point guy really over the last bit of time. I think this is an opportunity in a matchup where when he goes up against someone like Montrezl Harrell, he should be able to get you that 50. So I like him here. Jeng, no thank you. Ivica Zubats providing good numbers, but the salary has jumped up to match that, so he loses appeal. While Montrezl Harrell has been definitely down, averaging just 31 over the last 5, and it's 7,400. That does not cut it, and he is not in my list of guys that I'm super interested in. Next up, the New York Knickerbockers, the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are favored by 8. The total is 207.5. Dennis Smith is probable to play after missing last game with an illness. The Duke, Wayne Ellington, is out. Corey Joseph is probable for the Kings, and when we have to see what they're going to do with the Bagley and Holmes and Bielitsa front court, there's so much confusion still here with this Sacramento team. At point guard, Corey Joseph's at 4,900. He's a bad DFS option, while Lord Alfred Payton had 24 points in 30 minutes last game, 4,400, but again, there's the 3-point guards available, so how Mike Miller runs this is anybody's guess, and you would not want to rely upon Payton or, of course, Ntilikina or Dennis Smith. Frank will probably start again, but he put up he put up negative 0.50 points last game. That is how good he was. At shooting guard, Damo Dotson, no thank you. Bogdan Bogdanovic, all the way at 4,500. He has not been at that level. This is a great opportunity for him to have a 30-pointer, which is fantastic at 45. Will he do it? I don't know, but he is a GPP type of a guy. Bud Hields at 75, and with the injuries, I think there's still value there with De'Aaron Fox out. Rowan Barrett Jr. at 6,000, dropped 42 against the Warriors. Prior to that, he'd been struggling. I'm not massively into him here. Small forwards, Marcus Morris at 54. I am into that. That looks really strong. He had 61 against the Warriors, a huge number. I think he can get another 30 plus here, so I do like him quite a bit. While the pencil, Harrison Barnes. Barnesy comes in at 5,900 with Bagley back. That's a strong no from me. Ariza at 44 is not a good DFS guy. The power forwards, Nemanja Bjelica's at $7,000. He played 22 minutes last game and had 14 points, so it's safe to say that I'm not keen on that one. Bagley at 7,000 is a strong-ass fade as well, while Julius Randle at 66 has been putting up numbers close to that area. I think we can find other options for him, but that's at least in play to a degree here for Randall. And then Richaun Holmes at 7,500. Almost impossible to trust that. Last game only 25 minutes exclusively at center with Bagley. Bagley playing also 25 regulation minutes. That one with Bagley getting the rest of those minutes at center. He did get early foul trouble, so was it a Bagley issue? Was it a foul issue? Was it a Walton issue? Like, we don't really know at this point, but at 7,500, it's a huge whack to take that risk on someone like Holmes here. Portis, no thank you, but I do like Mitch Robinson in this one.
And Mitch Robinson says, I'll take it from here.
If he wasn't at 6,800. That is a really high price. He's giving us 32 a night. But 6,800 is just hoping that he doesn't get into foul trouble and hoping that the numbers come. So to me on FanDuel, I like him in other areas. To me on FanDuel, it's not the one that we really want to go for. The last game of the day, we're looking at the Golden State Warriors, the Utah Jazz. Mike Conley is out again. Draymond Green is resting.
I'm not tired.
The Jazz are 12.5-point favourites. The total is 210.5. The lubricant Kai Bowman won't play. They've sent him back down to the G League to preserve his days, while the triangle Eric Paschall is out as well, or he's doubtful with that hip issue. Manny Moutier is a minimum salary player who had 27 points last game. It was easily his best game for the Jazz, so I'm not getting overly excited, but it's a fantastic matchup. So I think there's some, at minimum salary, some value here in Moutier. For your shooting guards, the Donovan Mitchell at 86, I would like it, but it's a bump in salary and it's a blowout risk, so that's not one that I'm looking at. Damian Lee, maybe, no, probably not. And D'Angelo Russell at 8,300 is probably a little bit on the high side. Alec Burks listed as a small forward for some reason. He is at $6,000 and he's been getting 30 a night. I actually think he can be a 30 a night type of a guy here, so this is absolutely worth it. Well, Bojan Bogdanovic, I had a look into some of his stuff today in an article I wrote for Yahoo, and his shooting percentages drop way off when he's not on the court with Conley. And that has coincided with a slide lately. So that is worth monitoring, maybe for tournaments for Bojan. The matchup suits him. Or Jingle and Joe thriving next to Gobert. At 5,500, we really have to like him. For your big men, I think Marquise Chris is in for a huge opportunity here. Minimum salary player, started the second half for Cauley Stein last game, could start at power forward with both Draymond and Paschall out. Minimum salary guy who can put up numbers when he doesn't get into foul trouble. Yeah, I'm all about Marquise Chris here, and I bet you never thought I'd say that. The Wizard Amari Spellman, also a GPP option. Royce O'Neal is neither of those things. And Jeff Green, also at minimum salary, not someone I'm caring about.
My name is Jeff.
At centre, Gobert's at 8,700. He should be able to get 40 pretty comfortably here against this Warriors team. While Cauley Stein maybe gets a reprieve with Green out, pushing Chris more to power forward. 5,100 for Willie is still not an ideal price tag, and Kevon Looney, almost impossible to have any sort of faith in him at this point. We just flick it over and have a quick look at some DraftKings options. Chris, Melton, Spellman, Herder, Ross, Valanciunas, all some strong value over there. Moutier and Towns and Carter Williams, Bogdan, Trey, Benny Simmons, Johnny Isaac, Jaren, Ingram, Dylan Brooksy Brooks, Bob Covington, Toby Harris, Malcolm Brogdon, and Mitchie Robinson, who comes in at 5,700. That's the sort of price that I will take from here for Mitchell Robinson. That'll do it for me today, guys. End of the week on the podcast. Don't forget, go and subscribe Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Isaiah Thomas.